The show opens with a girl named Nari arriving for her first day of high school. She's very excited because she's lost a tremendous amount of weight over the summer and gained incredible confidence. As soon as she walks into the school, her old friend Yuna approaches her and asks if they can be friends again. Seeing her, Nari's happy demeanor instantly changes. Turns out the two of them used to be best friends in middle school, but something happened that caused them to drift apart. Plus, Yuna is very popular for her looks and wealthy background, and Nari doesn't want to. Nevertheless, she reluctantly agrees to be her friend, and the girls exchange phone numbers. In the next scene, as they're having lunch in the cafeteria, they're joined by two other students named Sunji and Mirai. Sunji is an innocent girl with long braids, while Mirai is a popular influencer training to become a K-pop idol. Yuna is annoyed by their presence, but our heroine is very welcoming and immediately befriends them. While the four of them are eating, a bully girl named Subin takes their picture and uploads it to the school page. Soon after, the picture goes viral and everyone comments on how pretty the girls look, but Subin claims that Nari looks like an ugly duckling among beautiful swans. The comment embarrasses our poor girl, and she tries to hide from her classmates. Soon, she comes across a group of guys gossiping about her, saying even though she's lost weight, she's still ugly. Before Nari can defend herself, Yuna suddenly shows up and scolds the guys. She asserts that they have no right to say such things about others and demands they apologize. Terrified of her, the boys immediately apologize to Nari and run away. Days later, the four girls meet up again to celebrate Nari's birthday with a small cake. Afterwards, she's approached by a classmate named Jin-hyuk, who seems to have a crush on her. The two begin chatting about the assignment and he tries to flirt with her. However, their conversation is interrupted by the arrival of Mirai, who has brought Nari a birthday present. Turns out to be her favorite K-pop idol, who is in the same academy as Mirai. Nari is overjoyed to see her crush and blushes with excitement, but Jin-hyuk becomes very jealous and he walks away without saying a word. Later in the classroom, Yuna also gifts Nari her favorite chocolate, making her very happy. As the two are chatting, Subin shows up and tries to get closer to Yuna. However, the latter knows who uploaded the lunch picture and gossiped about her friend, so she's extremely rude to Subin and calls her ugly to her face. She even reveals how Subin had recently undergone plastic surgery on her eye to look pretty. Hearing this, everyone is shocked and Subin is deeply embarrassed. The only one who feels bad for her is our heroine, as she's been through a similar situation. Afterwards, she talks with Yuna and asks her not to behave so rudely with other people. She understands that she's doing this for her, but warns that others may perceive her as a mean girl. However, Yuna reveals that she doesn't care about other people's opinions and only cares about Nari. She questions if she's uncomfortable with their friendship, and even though our heroine clearly is, she lies that she isn't. Days later, Nari is at the knitting club with Jin-hyuk, and he tries his best to get close to her. However, their conversation is interrupted by a handsome senior, who shows interest in her. He compliments her knitting skills and even asks for her phone number. Nari is excited and immediately shares her number, causing Jin-hyuk to feel awful. Later, when Yuna learns about this, she becomes very upset with Nari and advises her not to date any random guy. Jin-hyuk is also there and he agrees, stating that the guy is not suitable for her. However, Nari is completely smitten with her new crush and excitedly reveals that she's going on a date with him. The next day, she goes on the planned date while Yuna hangs out with her. The girls then discuss the senior, and Sunji reveals how he has been constantly texting her and asking her out. In the meantime, Nari is with the senior, and she soon finds out that he's a very superficial guy. He asks her to take his picture in 100 poses and shows no interest in her. To make matters worse, he asks her to hook him up with her friend, Sunji. Nari is shocked and states that she can't help him, but the guy begins to insult her. He calls her ugly and foolish for thinking she even had a chance with him. Hurt and upset by his comments, she immediately runs away. In the evening, our heroine is crying alone when her friends show up to console her. Sunji apologizes and makes it clear that she has no interest in that jerk. Nari claims that she's too ugly and that no one will ever like her, but Yuna tells her not to talk badly about herself. She comforts her friend, assuring her that she's very pretty and smart. After Nari calms down, Yuna tells her to notify her if a guy approaches her again. She asks Nari not to date anyone unless she approves, and the latter agrees. The next day, upon hearing this story, Jin-hyuk laughs a lot and jokingly teases Nari for being so silly, but when she gets upset, he cheers her up and claims that she's very pretty, and the guy just has bad taste in women. He then takes this moment to confess that he really likes her, and wants her to be his girlfriend. This shocks our girl and she assumes he's joking again, therefore she doesn't respond to him and simply walks away. In the following days, the four girls become increasingly close. Although Yuna doesn't particularly care for Soonji and Mary, she tolerates them because she wants to stay close to Nari. She often scolds her, urging her not to involve the other two in their plans, but Nari insists that they are her friends as well. To get Yuna to open up, our heroine comes up with a plan one day. During a study session, she sends Soonji in her place since she's the least close to Yuna. The latter is annoyed to see her, but she puts up with it and starts studying. After spending a day together, Yuna inquires about her dreams and goals. Soonji reveals that her dream has already been fulfilled, which confuses Yuna. She then admits that she always desired genuine friends with whom she could share her joys and sorrows. Soonji claims she found them within this group and is grateful for it. Hearing this, Yuna is touched and realizes that she's a sweet person. In the next scene, Nari meets with Jin Hyuk, who asks her for her response to his confession the other day. He claims that he is indeed serious about her and wants her to be his girlfriend. In response, Nari says that she's not pretty like her friends and is just an ordinary person, but Jin Hyuk makes it clear that he's also an ordinary person. He tells her that even though she may seem ordinary to everyone else, she's special to him. Hearing this, our girl begins blushing, and Jin Hyuk takes this moment to kiss her. The next day, Yuna gives her favorite perfume to Mary, and it seems like she's opening up to her. They then share various stories and talk about their likes and dislikes. In the middle of their conversation, Yuna learns that Nari and Jin Hyuk have started dating, which makes her furious. Later, she confronts Nari about it and asks why she didn't consult her beforehand. The poor girl apologizes and clarifies that everything happened on a whim. Yuna then warns her not to be alone with Jin Hyuk unless she gives permission. Turns out, she has a bad feeling about this guy and doesn't want her friend to get hurt again. In the following days, Yuna follows the couple everywhere and doesn't give them any privacy. When she sees Nari giggling and texting him, she immediately snatches her phone and tells her to focus on the moment. While heading home, Jin Hyuk tries to walk with his girlfriend, but Yuna again intervenes and takes her away. Eventually, Nari gets fed up with her behavior and is upset that she can't even spend time with her boyfriend. So one day, she decides to go on a movie date while keeping it a secret from Yuna. She contacts Mary and Soonji, who help her choose a pretty dress and do her makeup. But when she arrives at the movie theater, she's surprised to discover that Jin Hyuk has invited Yuna. Despite her disappointment, she pretends to be happy and the three end up watching the film together. Nari now begins to suspect that Yuna is trying to steal her boyfriend. One day at a sporting event, she notices him staring at her and praising her beauty. Our heroine asks if he's uncomfortable with Yuna always tagging along, but he responds that he has no problem with her. Moments later, Yuna participates in a game during which she loses her balance and falls. Seeing this, Jin Hyuk immediately panics and calls out her name. This makes Nari very upset, and she doesn't understand what's happening. A little while later, she's walking absent-mindedly when she suddenly comes across Jin Hyuk confessing his love for Yuna, but the latter rejects him and scolds him for playing with her best friend's feelings. Through a flashback, we see how when Jin Hyuk first arrived at school, everyone was commenting on how pretty and smart Yuna was. However, he didn't like her and thought she was an arrogant rich snob. Instead, he was drawn to Nari, who was innocent and warm to everyone. He began getting closer to her, but once he started hanging out with Yuna, he discovered that she was not as cold as she seemed. He began to see her soft side and eventually fell in love with her. After this, Jin Hyuk considered proposing to Yuna, but he noticed how she turned down every guy who approached her. He got scared and started hanging out with her through Nari instead. He used to text and call Yuna constantly, but she never responded. Eventually, he got desperate and decided to date Nari in hopes of getting closer to her. In the present, Yuna scolds Jin Hyuk, claiming that if it wasn't for her friend, she would never even talk to him, but they soon realize that Nari has overheard their entire conversation. Enraged, Jin Hyuk hurts her further by calling her ugly and stating that no one would choose her over Yuna. This shatters our poor girl's self-confidence, prompting her to run away from there in tears. Sometime later, we see her crying alone when Yuna arrives to comfort her. The latter apologizes for what happened and swears she has no interest in Jin Hyuk. However, a distraught Nari pushes her away and accuses her of trying to control her life. She then brings up the incident from middle school when Yuna caused her pain, and accuses her of trying to hurt her again. Yuna tries to justify herself, but Nari declares that she doesn't want to be friends anymore and leaves. In the following days, she isolates herself from her friends and spends most of her time alone. Seeing her so miserable, the school bully Subin is very happy and begins to gossip about her. She starts spreading rumors about Nari being kicked out of Yuna's group for being ugly. One evening, the bully uses another student's phone to ask her what happened. Nari, being naive, tells her everything, but Subin soon reveals herself and makes fun of her. She then begins spreading more gossip about how Jin Hyuk used her to get close to Yuna. One day, Nari is eating lunch alone when Soon Jae and Mireille approach her asking why she's been avoiding them. They claim they miss her, and that they're here to help her through her difficult times. Nari gets emotional hearing this, and the three girls begin crying together, making Subin very jealous. Later in the classroom, the bully asks Nari why she's been ignoring her, and if she's patched up things with her friends. However, our girl responds that she never had a falling out with them and Subin is merely imagining things in her twisted head. She then confronts Subin about how she's been trying to sabotage her life since the start. Nari reminds her that people with low self-esteem are more likely to point out flaws in others, so she advises her to work on her own insecurity before bothering others. Hearing this, Subin is left speechless while all the other students finally realize her malicious nature. In the following scene, we see Yuna still at home, visibly distressed. She sent dozens of texts to Nari apologizing, but hasn't received any response. We then see a flashback to her middle school years when everyone wanted to be friends with her because of her good looks and wealthy status, but behind her back they would all gossip about her and call her a spoiled brat. During that time, Yuna found solace in her friendship with Nari, who was completely different from others. However, one day she made another friend named Mayang, and they quickly became close. This made Yuna very jealous, and she started behaving coldly towards the new girl. One afternoon in the teacher's room, Mayang overheard a teacher discussing how rude Yuna is because her parents separated and she was not raised well. Days later, while Nari is hanging out with her new friend, she received a text from Yuna inviting her to her birthday party. Unfortunately, Mayang noticed the message and deleted it before Nari could even read it. On the day of the party, Yuna waited for her best friend for a long time, but she didn't arrive. Instead, Mayang showed up and complimented her for organizing such a lavish party. She then began insulting her, claiming it was too bad that she didn't have a father figure in her life. This left everyone shocked, and Mayang claimed that Nari told her about her parents' divorce. The next day at school, Nari approached Yuna and asked why she didn't invite her to her party. However, Yuna rudely called her ugly and all sorts of names. This left everyone shocked, and Mayang claimed that Nari told her about her parents' divorce. The next day at school, Nari approached Yuna and asked why she didn't invite her to her party. However, Yuna rudely called her ugly and all sorts of names. She pretended not to know her in front of all the other students and walked away from her. This incident hurt her heroine a lot, and she decided to cut all ties with Yuna. Days later, Yuna learned from another student that Nari didn't reveal anything. In fact, Mayang had heard about her family situation from a teacher. This made Yuna feel very bad, as she had hurt her best friend over a misunderstanding. She decided to make amends, but when she noticed how happy Nari was with Mayang, she didn't dare approach her. After middle school was over, Nari transferred to a different school, but Yuna still could not move on from the incident. She talked to her mother about this, who advised her that there's still time to make amends. She urged her to do the right thing, instead of regretting it for the rest of her life. As a result, Yuna finally decided that she would also transfer to Nari's school and reconcile with her. In the present, she talks with Sungji and shares that she's tried every means to apologize, but Nari is still not talking to her. Sungji then advises her to do something that will make her happy. Hearing this, Yuna recalls how Nari once said that she wanted someone to sing for her in front of a crowd. Although it might seem embarrassing or cheesy to others, she knows it would make Nari feel special and loved. Days later, during a school event, Yuna dresses up as a fairy and arrives on the stage. She then announces that she's going to dedicate this performance to her best friend. She then starts singing a song in a very loud and funny voice, shocking everyone. Although others make fun of her, Nari is deeply moved by her efforts. Yuna ends her performance by apologizing to her best friend for everything and asks if they can reconcile. This time, Nari accepts her apology, and the best friends embrace each other. In the final scene, the four girls are hanging out at Yuna's house and having fun like old times. Their semester is coming to an end, and Nari hopes they will all be in the same class next year. However, Mireille reveals that she'll be making her debut soon, leading her to drop out of high school. Sungji also reveals that she needs to make money to take care of her grandmother, so she's enrolled in vocational classes. As for Yuna, she reveals that she's transferring to the science department next year. Hearing this, Nari is upset that they won't be able to hang out like before, but the girls cheer her up by claiming that even though they're choosing different paths, they won't drift apart from each other. The girls then sleep on the floor together, and Nari assures Yuna that she will always be her best friend even if they're apart. Hearing this, Yuna burst into tears, and with this bittersweet ending, the show comes to an end.